I'm now going to show the beginning loop chain from the Yorkstitch. The first loops are always the same on a row. You start with your primary loop, hold it with your thumb and your second finger, pull the string around the loop, hold it again, and now you start your Yorkstitch. You go in the back loop from behind, go underneath the front loop from behind and underneath the yarn. Then you go, take your finger away, grab over the back loop, pull the front loop up, this makes it a back loop, and pull your yarn through. Start again. Go from the back to the front, switch around, and pull it all through. Through the back loop, from the back through the front loop, underneath your yarn, put this as a back loop, and pull your needle through. If you keep your thumb up like this, the yarn will always very simply form your new front loop. I will do now a few more and show you the chain. Just keep watching and see how it forms the new front loop. If you try to find your rhythm doing it always the same way, you will find it easier to learn. You can now see how it forms the new stitch. This is a chain for the Yorkstitch. So you can see now how it twists. To untwist it, this is the way it's supposed to look. As you can see here, the first few stitches don't tend to be the same tightness as the other ones are. So what you can do is either take scissors and cut this part off, or you just loosen up the beginning knot here, and then I start pulling the other ones until I got the desired tightness. So you can keep pulling it. You turn this round to form a circle, and then find your first stitch. You now get hold to your first stitch. I always take the first two to give it a little bit more strength. So on this you start with the F1 and go and do your Yorkstitch on top. With my ring finger I kind of hold the row together, which I won't need. Now you make sure that this beginning string doesn't get in the way too often. Now, to give it more strength, I do a F2 connection. An F2 connection means you take a new one from the row below and take the one you just went through, and then do your stitch. This way the null-bound material get more strength. This is an F2 connection. You take a new one right here and the last old one from the stitch you just took, and do your Yorkstitch on top. New one, old one, Yorkstitch. show it here again. There's a new loop, F1 connection or F2 connection, take a new one and an old one, and then do your stitch. F1, F2 and York. Do an F2 connection. The F2 connection will be more sturdy, but it will not be as elastic as a F1 connection. I now worked one round more, and you can see I got 2 rounds done the way it looks. I will now connect another piece of yarn to the old end and show you how this is done. You take the old end and half it like this, and then you take the new end and do the same. I'll take it now with a different color so you can see it. Now we got, that's a new end, and here's the old end. What you do now is put these into each other so they meet. And then you start chewing on it, nice and wet. You take it in your hand and start rubbing it. Because of the rubbing and the heat that the rubbing will do, it will start felting. So you can see now, it connects, doesn't come apart. Again, this is a F1 connection with a York stitch. F1 York stitch. F1. Do F2 is this and an old one. We do an F1. F1. One new one and the York stitch. But we go from the front to the back, so when it's F. From the back to the front, it's a B. F1. Now you can see the difference. Or can't you? If you do the F1, the material is thinner, it's not as thick. If you do a F2, this one is thicker than this. It's more sturdy, it's not quite as elastic.